Welcome back, everyone, to Your Personal Real Estate. We are continuing our show today, and we are excited to have Saji Salam back. Now, you've seen him before, you will see him again. His information that he's providing to us and to you viewers is very insightful and is educational, and I'm excited having him on a part of our show. Now, Saji Salam, he is the principal of CareVenturesCapital. How are you doing today?
Oh, very, very good, Michelle, and thanks for having me again.
I enjoy you being here. I learn so much every time you're with us. Now today, we're going to start with what is a real estate syndication?
Let me try and keep this very simple. Basically, even though we use the word syndication, it is not very complicated. It just simply says that we are pulling together a bunch of investors and then coming together to buy an asset, right? So you could syndicate a single family home if you want to. So it's just, so this is a group of investors. And in a single family situation, you don't need several people to come together and pool their investments to buy a single family home. But in a multifamily and large commercial real estate transactions, the deal sizes are large, and typically we see anything 10 million and up. And so, it makes sense to have investors come together, pool their resources, and this is what we call a syndicated real estate transaction.
I understand. How do you go about with syndicated real estate transactions? How do you go about that?
The syndications have a certain structure. And the basic structure is that there are a bunch of people who are called the general partners, and then there are the investors who are called the limited partners. So this is the commonest structure out there. You can make it as fancy as possible, but end of the day, there is the general partner, and the general partner or partners are the people who do a certain set of duties within this whole syndication framework. And to go through those roles, some of the roles are, we call them, one of those are boots on the ground. So boots on the ground is just that, boots on the ground. So we had an asset in Augusta, Georgia, and we had a partner who was based out of Atlanta who would be visiting the property. He was part of the deal sourcing and keeps visiting the property regularly after we take on the asset. So boots on the ground is the person or the partner with that local knowledge and local presence. In Houston, I would be, among other things, boots on the ground as well, right? The second piece is deal sourcing. So there's one partner or many partners may be involved in deal sourcing, which is finding the deals, having the relationship with people like you who are in the real estate space and finding those deals and then going on to underwrite those deals. And again, these roles are not specific to just one person. There may be situations where one deal sponsor does many of these things. I do most of this except for the construction and renovation part. But there are situations where it is more clear cut, where one partner does this and the other partner does that. So there's division of labor, and that is what partners are for. So once the partner does the underwriting, then there's a piece for the physical due diligence, and that goes hand in hand with the construction and renovation partner. Because he or she is the one who's got more insight into the due diligence. As I've talked about in the past sessions, due diligence would entail the partners and others going into each of the units, walking them, figuring out what needs to be done from renovation, etc. And so in our case, when we do assets which have a renovation component in it, we bring in a partner who's got a construction background. And so that is another role that one or many of the partners do.
Now that you have now that you've sourced the deal, like what is next?
So we talked about some of the roles that the partners do in the front end of the transaction, right? Finding the deal and then walking it, doing the due diligence and all that. And after that, there are still more things that need to be done, right? So there is financing. You need to buy this property, so you need to bring in finance for it. And for finance, there are two big components that, at a high level, that the partner gets involved in. One is sourcing the debt or the loan from the bank, and the other is finding the equity or the investors to invest, typically in the down payment. So those are the two big pieces in the financing of the deal. Moving on, there is also a role for somebody to execute the transaction. There's a lot of work involved in interacting with the lender, creating the loan documents that are required, providing them the loan documents that are required, working with the vendors. You have the insurance vendors, you have the property management vendor. So for all these, there's a lot of paperwork and time involved in reviewing and approving a lot of these documents. So that is one part of it, which continues all the way till the closing of the transaction with the title company and the lender. And even after that, there is still more work to be done. And the two big pieces that are out there are asset management. So that is the part where you're really taking care of the asset. So you'll be providing oversight over the property management company, making sure that the lender reporting and insurance reporting and interactions with the lender and the insurance and other vendors are smooth at a high level. And the property management company will do the nitty-gritty, but we still need to have the oversight of it. So those are the key roles in any multifamily syndication scenario.
Now, Saji, what is the time frame? What is the average time frame when you find that asset and you're sourcing and everything that you just shared with us? What is the average time frame from discovery to close, if you will?
Okay. So in the multifamily world, the time to close a transaction can be anywhere from 3 months to 6 months. Could even be longer, depending on the kind of transaction. So for typical transactions, you would have to ballpark somewhere between 60 to 90 days for sure. That would be a good rule of thumb.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because I was thinking it sounded, because of the detailed work that you do, at CareVenturesCapital, and ensuring that this is the investment, or secure investment, if you will. It just seemed like it would take so much longer, but I love that it's that short term, because you can really see that light at the end of the tunnel inside of that investment, right?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there is a point where you see the light at the end of the tunnel, for sure.
Now, what are some of the pros and cons of partnership?
So the reason we have partnership is for many reasons. There are situations where you need that kind of involvement to get this up and running. It is time and effort intensive, so you would love to share the load with a bunch of people. So that is one. The other is the skill sets that the partners bring to the table. So for instance, if you have a construction company as your partner, then you don't have to worry about anything related to the construction or renovation side of things. They are the experts. So that's something that, that's the other reason to have several partners. The third reason is that there is finance involved. You need to bring money from the investors to the table. You have to do some paperwork with the lender, which involves your net worth and liquidity. So for those, you may not be having the liquidity for 100 million transactions. So you definitely need partners who can contribute to that liquidity and other financial underwriting requirements from the lender. So there is that element of effort involved, and that is what brings these partners together. But at the same time, that can also become not go very well, because there are partners who would take on something and it does not get done, or they don't have the time, and so those things can go wrong. So there is, that's one of the challenges with this partnership, and it is a partnership that comes together for a transaction, and sometimes these partners stay on to do maybe 3 or 4 transactions, and many a time then there is, depending on how the partnership went, there is a realignment of the partnerships when somebody does the next deal. So it is a little intensive in just managing the partnership. And in terms of something like a construction company partner, like I said, there's the benefit of bringing a construction company as a partner, because now you don't have to worry about the construction part of it. But at the same time, now you also need to be keeping the construction company accountable, right? So now this is a partner, and you need to make his company be accountable for delivering the work. We need to make that company accountable to make sure that they stay within the budget that we provide. So those are definitely challenges when you have a construction company as a partner. And then the third situation that I have run into is where you have a deal sponsor who is on an acquisition spree and ends up buying thousands of units, and now without the team to execute, the partner is stretched, and when a partner is stretched, then it'll impact not only the new deals that the partner is signing up, but also the existing deals. So these are some of the broad challenges that you run into in a partnership situation in multifamily.
Now, Saji, there is so much more for us to learn from you, and we appreciate you and who you are for us, and providing the education that you do, and who you are for our community. And I thank you for being with us today. And everyone, will be right back after this commercial break.